this stigma that is around this thing, and I know exactly what you mean when you say if you're at some other environment, not just a company, even a group of social group or whatever, and you open up about this, of course people are going to look like, oh, and so I don't know how I would react. So maybe I would definitely try to open up about it in order to try and break the stigma. And if the environment was not welcoming, maybe I would quit. I don't know. I mean, I try to think that we're valuable professionals, right? We do our work and we do it well, and our employers or the companies we work for make a lot of money out of our work, of course, because this is how it works, right? So when you bring that much value to a company, you should you should be having the time of your life there, is what I mean. Like, I would never, because I've worked at a company where I was having a very bad time, or I've worked at a company where it was very stressful to work there, and very like a deadline, not only deadlines, but overtime, etc. And in general, a very stressful environment. I wouldn't want to do that again, because I think that the value we produce is that much that we can seek to be working at a good environment. And as long as you're producing the value that they pay you for, you can be depressed or you can be whatever you want. I mean, if you're doing your work and you are respected and you respect others, like, that stops there,
I think there's something we can do as just colleagues and professionals, and that is give each other space. Like, we all have things that we're dealing with, and I just really hope that our listeners will remember that if somebody opens up to you about something that they're dealing with, it doesn't mean that they're worse at their job somehow. It doesn't mean that they're not as good as some other people on your team. It doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to ever meet their goals or things like that. It doesn't mean any of that. What it does mean is they're human, and you have the same issues. If you look in the mirror, you have issues that people could say the same thing about you. And so I love how you're trying to break down that stigma, Katerina. I love that other people have been more vocal about it too lately.
I think that's kind of the combination there that you've got to have, because Katerina, that was a hard question to answer, and I don't think that there is like a perfect way to answer it, because you can't change other people, right? Like, there's always going to be people who are just kind of butt heads about things, and I'm someone that likes to believe that it's not, people are good at heart. I really believe that. As much as there are toxic people and there are people who are more difficult to get along with, I think most people, not all, but most people mean well. It's just that they, like you said earlier, a lot of them are just uneducated. They don't know necessarily how to behave when someone opens up to them. But I loved your answer, because you were saying you just kept working your butt off, and you kept proving to people that, like, look, I opened up to you about this, and yes, it's a part of who I am, but that doesn't mean I can't produce top quality work, and here it is, by the way. And oh yeah, it's like 5 days early, like you prove them wrong. And I think that's all you really can do, is just keep pushing and working through and giving your 100% as best as you possibly can. But then that's where I'm saying it's got to be a good mix, because what Erik is saying and what I agree with is that sometimes there are those situations, and I think similar to the one that I was saying I was in once I opened up and had said that, like, I've got this Crohn's disease, and it's like I need to take some time off to kind of deal with it, like that kind of a thing. And then all of a sudden people treated me differently for that. I think having open conversation, not excessive, but like having open conversations with people, but having team members and coworkers who are supportive of you and who make it just normal. They normalize it. It's like, it's not that thing that is shoved in the closet. It's not the secret. We can't talk about it. Oh, but just making it normal. Oh yeah, she's got that. He's dealing with that. And then once other people see you being normal about it and not caring and not thinking that so-and-so is not producing, if you can give that example, then I think other people follow that lead too. Like, oh, it is no big deal. They are still producing. They are still doing their work. And actually, they're one of the best producers and they're doing some of the best work we have. But I think that's one of the best things you can do as a coworker, as a team lead, manager, whatever, is just normalizing it, making it natural, making it normal, not making it a big deal. And don't make it a secret either. Like, if it's out there, it's out there. Just make it like, okay, and move on, right? Other people will
Yeah,
follow.
exactly. And it's like if we take the stigma, for example, away from the mental health of depression, you could think that, okay, a colleague is having migraines. Is this a stigma? Does it mean that they're not performing? Or that colleague is on their period? Is it a stigma? Are they not performing? If you just take the bare thing out of it, then it's... Or someone suffers from, I don't know, stomach issues, which, okay, they are in pain sometimes during the day. Is it a stigma? Are they not performing? No. So, it's something really, really normal and everyday.
We're telling people to break out of the stigma, right? But there's also, we're telling people to open up to others and to share. But I also just want to urge people to be cautious as well. I don't want to increase the stigma, but I do want you to be cautious, because you will go to companies and interview with people, and if you open up to them during interviews and stuff, they could potentially use that against you and not hire you, because they know that you have something that they think that's a stigma for them. And so I want to also remind people that, not everybody's at the same education level, as Katerina brought earlier. Not everyone is at the same empathy level as well. And I think it might be worth pointing out that you don't have to talk about these things in a professional level. I think it's good that people do open up to others, but you don't have to talk about them. And if you feel like if you are thinking of talking about these things, maybe float something like more like a question or a comment to your managers beforehand to sort of test the waters and see how they respond to something. And one more thing, it's illegal, at least in the United States, to actually ask someone about their medical disabilities or anything that they might have going on. So if they ask you that in an interview setting, then maybe run away from that opportunity.
Run away. Katerina, it's kind of by the end-ish of your article, you were saying that you're in a place now where depression, anxiety, they're not gone, right? You still deal with them, but you've learned how to manage. So can you kind of speak to that a little bit and, I think just help people understand that maybe this is a lifetime challenge, maybe not, but what are your thoughts around just managing and coping day to day with it?
Sure. Definitely now I'm at a very good state of my life. But I know, but it's sort of like, I always think of it, you've seen A Beautiful Mind, the movie about this mathematician. That in the end, he waves at the people in his head. I don't know if you remember the ending. That the people in his head who used to torture him are still there, but now they're like old friends and he waves at them. I think it's sort of like that. I think I don't think it really goes away. This is my perception again. It's not a medical a medical explanation. I don't think it ever really goes away, and but I think that you sort of understand it more and you sort of embrace it, that as you said before, Brooke, that sometimes you're sad, sometimes you're not sad, sometimes you're happy, and it's okay. And if you're feeling very bad and very sad sometimes, it's not something to worry about, or it's not something to panic about, because sometimes, for me at least, when I was feeling sad, it was again a vicious circle. I thought, oh no, I'm feeling sad, I have depression. Oh no, I have depression. That's very bad. That's very, and it's a vicious circle that keeps building. If now that I've worked with it, with my therapist and myself and my friends over all these years, I know that I can embrace my feelings much better, and I can understand myself much better, and I can understand my vulnerabilities much better. I can understand which things can cause me to panic, which things constrict me, which things make me sad. Or when I feel that cloud coming, I know that it's coming, and I know it's going to go away. So this is what I mean, that I know it's there, because I know that sometimes my mind makes these trips that are a bit constricting, or that make me sad. So now that I know how my mind works, I know how to deal with it. And this is why I don't think it has really gone away, because I know that my mind is still my mind, and this is part of me. But I don't see it now as a bad thing, is what I mean.
Totally. I want to continue that thought a little bit, because, and I just want to preface this, everybody, I am not saying that dealing with difficult things, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, whatever it is, I'm not saying it's a good thing. So please don't misunderstand what I'm about to say. But what I'm wanting to ask you, going off of that last comment, Katerina, is just if you've been able to see any positive side to this at all. And the reason I'm asking this is because I'll give you a little bit of a story. And this was actually yesterday. There was that huge earthquake in Mexico at 7.5, and at the Angular Community Meetup, I have some good friends and co-organizers who live in Mexico. Some people who've instantly become very dear friends to me. And here's the earthquake. It's just happened, and I was checking in with them, and they started to kind of joke about it a little bit. And I was a little surprised, but one of them said, this is how Mexicans like to deal with things. We like to find the humor in it. And I admired that. And not coincidentally, that literally yesterday, maybe an hour before that, I had been listening to a podcast where the lady who was being interviewed said that she was trying to get this job, and she kept getting rejected time and time again. But she said that there was a lesson that her father taught her as a little girl that has stayed with her whole life, which was he would always ask when something would go wrong or she would get hurt, and he would ask her, what's the humor that you can find in this situation? How can you laugh at it? And then all of a sudden, then this earthquake happens, and my co-organizer is sharing that story. And I just thought that is such a beautiful way to look at life. Is like, even when terrible things happen, things are not going your way, you feel like you're in this deep, dark hole, but can I change my mind frame around this a little bit? Can I find, if not humor, at least a purpose, something that shows me that there is learning value in this moment, in this circumstance? So what I'm trying to get to here, and what I'd like to ask you, is, have you been able to find, probably not humor, but at least that learning value, and something that you can pull out of this and say, I've learned this about myself, or I've been able to do such and such because of this? Have you experienced anything like that?
Definitely. And of course, I've also found humor. I mean, whenever I think of myself in situations where I would sabotage myself, I laugh at my thoughts retrospectively. I have definitely learned a lot of things about myself. I think I've become a lot more